Hey. Wow. I already know I'm gonna be awkward in this video. I'm really sorry. I just get awkward when I can actually see myself on the screen, so bear with me. And yes, I have my Imagine Dragons playlist playing in the back because it just makes it so much easier to talk. Cause I tried to make this video last night, and one, trying to do it in complete silence made it just really uncomfortable, like, trying to say those things. And also, I was trying to record it at, like, 10:30 at night, and there were periods when I would fall asleep for, like, a minute. And I didn't think you guys would want to just look at the screen as I'm just, like, sitting there sleeping. So I decided to get rid of that video file, and I'm doing it now. So yeah, just be glad you don't have to watch me sleep. Because then you all would be just creepers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so, like I said on Twitter, it's like, I've had tons of people, like, ask me, like, okay, I'm just gonna appear right here. I've just, like, both after the concert and getting on Twitter afterwards, I had so many people, like, asking, like, what exactly is your story? Because, like, I really wanna hear it. And yeah, the way Dan made it sound, it was like, you guys need to ask her about it, and that man knows how to embarrass me. I'm just gonna put it that way. Oh my gosh. Just like trying to think of a good place to start with all of this. Because I don't want to, like, go too in depth, like, by myself, because I don't have a date set for it yet, but at some point or another, Dan is going to be coming out to my little medium-sized Kansas town and interviewing me for Our Polaroid Stories project. So I'm, like, hoping that one will be a little more in-depth and definitely not as awkward as this one is, and so I'm just hoping that'll be a better one. So I just kind of, like, this will just, like, have parts of it in it, like, that I at least hope can get you to, like, semi-understand. Because I'm also, like, terribly awkward and find myself, like, not making sense a lot. And the other challenge with this is it's like, when you're trying to tell others how you, like, feel about something, it's like, you know what you feel because you're the one living it, and understanding, like, oh, okay, this is exactly how I feel, but I just find that words are just so limited that I feel like there's no way you could ever organize all the words in the world to ever really truly express, like, what goes on inside of people. Like, we just do not have enough words in any language to be able to understand things like that. So that's the other challenge, is because it's just so hard to, like, form words about it. So I'm just gonna try my best. And wow, my timer says I'm almost up to 5 minutes, and I guess I'll, like, stop boring you with, like, all this, like, random babble part. it's just kind of hard, like, figuring out, like, where exactly I want to start, like, by saying this. Because it's like, one of the main things that's, like, sort of shaped me, is the fact that ever since kindergarten, I have been bullied a lot. It just doesn't help that I was, like, this completely different kid who, like, in kindergarten, like, everyone else would be, like, so excited to go play on the playground. But we had this one tree in our playground that, like, part of the tree went straight up, but it had kind of almost a second tree growing out of it that would, like, come out at an angle. But the angle was low enough to the ground that you could climb on it and almost, like, lay down on it. And so, like, we would go out to recess and, like, everyone would automatically run for, like, the swings or the slide or something like that, but I would immediately go over to the tree and just, like, kind of, like, lay there during recess, kind of, like, looking up, like, through the leaves and up towards the sky, and, like, all the kids thought I was so weird just for, like, laying there and looking towards the sky. And other things that also didn't help, like, besides, like, me being different in that way, is it's like, I've never been a really skinny person. Like, I've always been overweight for my age, and when you're in school with other kids around you being, like, the normal weight of, like, 150 or something, and then you're standing there at 260, you get ridiculed a lot. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, like, so many people. Like, there would be times, like, I would get, like, a new shirt at Walmart or something and that I really liked, and I would choose to wear it to school that day because I really liked the shirt's design, but occasionally we couldn't always find, like, plus sizes of these shirts that I liked, so sometimes they would run a little small and were a little more, like, form-fitted to me, which did not help my case whatsoever, because I still remember one day in middle school having dressed up in this really, like, it was this, like, nice little shirt I had found at Walmart, and it was, like, really cute because it just had a panda on it, and it broke a pencil, and it just said, "Oh, snap!" Yeah. Middle school for everyone's awkward. You guys should already all know that, but I had, like, really liked this shirt, but the biggest we could get it was a ladies XL, which when I put that on, it made it very prominent that I was not skinny. And I believe I was walking from English class to science, and I'm in one of the halls of the school, and this one kid just walks up to me and goes, like, "Oh, I really like your outfit." And I was about to say, like, "Oh, thank you," because, like, I was never used to, like, getting compliments on what I was wearing. And just right as I was about to say that, he follows it up with, "Haha, no I don't. You're just, like, really fat and ugly." It's like, yeah. And also, besides, like, the outward appearance, like, internally, I just knew I always, like, functioned differently. Like, I would be the one to be like looking at the sky during recess, and um this is gonna sound stupid, but like one of my favorite activities to do was like we had this giant metal structure that looked like a barn, and I would climb to the very top of it. And even though we're in Kansas, which all of you are gonna say, oh, it's Kansas, it's flat as a pancake. My area, we actually do have some hills like off in the distance, so when you would climb to the very top of this thing, you could actually like look out past the graveyard that was right across the school from my park. Right across the school, yeah. I am so sorry. Right across the street from my school. Yeah. And we even found out one day that our playground like used to be part of the cemetery, and there were dead people under our playground. I know that like has nothing to do with anything, but I'm just changing one more time because it's getting uncomfortable sitting up. So just like bear with me. But and like I would just like look from the top of this thing, and I'm trying to find the right. I hate it with computers because like it mirrors, so I think I'm moving it the right way, but I'm really not. But my favorite activity would be to like climb to the very top, and you could see the hills out in the distance. And I was always this very like exuberant person with my imagination, and I would I would say I can see the volcanoes of Hawaii from here. And I would just have kids go like, "You're so stupid. There's no way you can find Hawaii from here." And because we actually had like a giant. Okay, that's not even comfortable. That's fine. We had like a giant map of the U.S. painted on our playground, and like one kid actually like pulled me over there to the map and like pointed out, "We are here. Hawaii is over there. You can't see it." And it's like I would just like have like very different thinking processes. Like we would do an activity, and like the teacher would kind of like show us one way to get it done, but I could most likely like find like a different way that made more sense to me. Cause I remember when we were just learning like basic subtraction and stuff like that. The teacher gave us this like really weird system, like go get out your base 10 blocks, and yeah, if anyone remembers those, you're cool. um, and used those things, but my mind automatically thought, oh, if you're trying to do 16 minus 9, like, my brain would just go, 6 from 9 is 3, and 3 from 10 is 7. And that's just automatically what my mind would do. My teacher got so mad at me that I wasn't using the base 10 blocks. She was like, "There's no way you can be doing this without the method I showed you." And I kind of like always went against like the normal way of doing things, because like one time we made a craft where like literally we were just like twisting a piece of brown paper to look like a tree, and like she showed us turn it counterclockwise. I thought counterclockwise looked weird, so I turned mine clockwise. She saw mine was twisted in a different direction once I was finished with it, and she actually like took the project off my desk and threw it away and handed me a completely new one and was like, "Do it as I instructed." So it's like I've kind of always like thought and like seen things differently, and been told like, no, you're doing it so wrong. And but we did like figure out like by that time that craft thing happened in the first grade. They had me like start going over to my school's Quest program, which was, I don't know if it gets called Quest anywhere else. It's maybe it's just a regional thing for Kansas, but it's our gifted program. And so they started having me meet with them, and at least in the time when I was getting accepted into that, you actually had to take like a test of a bunch of absurd questions, and these questions would like challenge you mentally to think. And I remember taking this test as a first grader, and they gave you something about like the dimensions of one section of the Great Wall of China. And by taking the dimensions of that one segment of the wall and them telling you how many segments of that size were on the wall, you had to be able to tell them how many bricks were used in the Great Wall of China. I don't remember the dimensions exactly, so I don't remember the answer, so sorry if you were hoping for the answer to that. That happened 10 years ago. Don't expect me to remember. But so it's like they brought me into that program, and that did like help some, because like in the regular classroom I would like blow through my work, and I would just kind of be sitting there, and the teacher would be like, how are you done already, and what am I supposed to do with you now that you're done? And so this like gave me a place to have like more challenging work that I would do. The only thing is sometimes it wouldn't, like, the way it worked in elementary school, it was not a separate class. It, like, happened during the regular school day, and I would be taken out of class to go to this. And sometimes it got me in trouble with my teachers, because they were like, well, you should have been in class for this activity. And I'm like, I had Quest? And they're like, that's not an excuse. So, yeah. Which, I know, like, right now, this kind of, like, all sounds like, oh, it's been so easy for her and stuff like that. But, like, besides bullies, like, having called me, like, fat or stuff like that, um, just from what I can, like, remember from the top of my head, I've had names thrown at me of fat, ugly, stupid, retarded, which I absolutely hate that word with a burning passion. Like, it hurts for me to, like, actually say it. I hate that word with such a burning passion. Reject. A few kids have even called me a mistake. And once I got up to, like, high school, I was getting called words like bitch. Wow, there was bitch, asshole, um, stupid fucker. Yeah, I'm not even lying, like, these were some of the things that got thrown at me with just words, and, like, some people think words don't stick, like, when you tell them to someone. They kind of think it's like, throwing, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. Oh, they kind of think it's like throwing water at a pane of glass and expecting it to stick, but no, it just slides right down. That, well, that's a pattern. That's not what I was trying to go for. They think it's like that because they think it's not gonna stick and it's just gonna slide down. They couldn't be more wrong. It's more like throwing something into, like, molasses or something. I'm really weak on my analogies today. Yeah. But it's like throwing something into molasses that just, like, stays in there, and sometimes, depending on the weight of it, sinks down farther into the substance. It's like, words do not slide away when you say them to someone. They stay there. Because I'm going to be a senior this year in high school, and I still remember this occurrence from the 6th grade. Literally 6 years ago. And I still remember this clear as day. I was sitting in, class, and we were doing our morning math books. They call them, cyclic review around here. And I remember we were doing, like, some problem that, like, you needed to regroup for it, and I somehow, like, I just, like, missed one of the steps, because 6th grade, I was getting up at, like, 6:30 in the morning to go to a completely different elementary school to take pre-algebra, and then have to come back to my school to start the day. There was one time even my teacher had to come pick me up. That was awkward. You do not know awkward until you have to ride in the car with your teacher. Like, that's just awkward. But he, like, had to come pick me up from pre-algebra one day. But so, like, that morning, my brain must have just still been in pre-algebra mode, and I just wasn't thinking, and I just, like, overthought this problem and thought it had to do with something completely different, but it was actually really simple. And so I got a wrong answer, but it was still one of the multiple choice answers, because you know how test makers are annoying like that, and they're just gonna throw in wrong answers that you think are right, yeah. And so it just happened that morning, when we got to checking the questions, my teacher called on me for the answer to that question. And I thought I was right in what I had put down, so I said my answer. And him just, like, wanting to show me, like, how I accidentally, like, overthought the problem, said, "Not quite, but you're close," and then turned to the class to ask, "Does anyone know what Faith did wrong with this problem?" And, like I said, I hate that word with such a burning passion, and it just hurts to say it, but this one kid who had, like, never even liked me to begin with just shoots his hand up in the air. And so my teacher calls on him, and he just stands up and professes with, like, all the energy he can, "It's because she's retarded." That happened to me in the 6th grade, 6 years ago. And I still remember clear as day. So, one of the things I'm going to say in here is just please watch your words before you say anything to anyone. Because you don't know how they're going to end up taking it, and you may think it's just going to leave them, but it doesn't. It stays with you, and it's, yeah. But, and, like, now I'm, like, my brain's, like, not paying attention because It's Time came on my playlist, and But I'm gonna get into, like, why this song is so special to me in a bit, but I know I've, like, already gone to, like, 25 minutes, so I hope I'm not boring you guys to death, because I know I'm just, like, talking about random school things right now. But that kind of did, like, shape me. And, geez, just, it made it, I feel bad talking through the song, it's terrible, but it just, like, so it kind of made me, like, not really have that many close friends. Like, I had one through, like, first through third grade, and then she ended up moving. Really, iPod? You're gonna play It's Time twice in a row. Are you trying to kill me? Ugh. Yeah, I talk to my music sometimes. It's awkward, but and then I had another one for, like, kindergarten through 8th grade. Like, we were both good friends, but once we got into, like, older elementary school and then middle school, me and him got teased for, like, saying we were dating, which we weren't. We were just really close friends. But that wouldn't stop kids from, like, coming up to us, like, if we're sitting together at lunch and going, like, "Are you two dating?" And it just made it, like, so awkward for the both of us that we haven't really talked in a while. It's like, after 8th grade, he ended up going to a different high school than I did, and we just really haven't talked. So that's another thing, like, don't assume things, because you can screw some people up. And actually, like, one of my best friends I've been, like, so lucky to know her, and, I'm, like, so glad she still puts up with me. I had actually brought her to the concert with me, and her name's Katie. I just want to say that just because I do appreciate her so much. Even though when she started attending my school in the 4th grade, if she was actually afraid of me. And we never really started talking till the 5th grade, but I was fine with it. Because apparently, I guess I, like, gave off, like, a scary vibe in elementary school? I don't know. But, so it's like, going through this, like, and I wouldn't always, like, have lunch with the people I knew, and I wouldn't have anyone to, like, sit with, and, like, if, I even remember in middle school, like, one time you had to sit exactly according to what class you were in that hour. Like, if you were in math class, you sat with your math class. If you were in science class, you sat with your science class. They did not allow mingling between the tables. If you were caught at a different table, you could be sent to the principal's office. That's how my middle school lunch was set up. And I remember one day going through the line, buying my lunch, and walking over to one of the 2 tables my math class had. 'Cause we were a big enough class that we wouldn't all fit at one table, so they had 2 tables reserved for us. And so, like, I just found a group of them talking, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna try to talk to them today. And so I sat down at their table. They all take one look at me, stand up, and move to the other table, and then just resume conversation. And I'm just sitting there at a table all by myself. Um, so yeah, things like that, they affect you, and they hurt. Like, to think, it's like when I never, like, saw, like, the full picture, I just always felt like I was doing things wrong, and I somehow was messing up everything, making myself completely unlikable, making myself this annoying, stupid person that just couldn't do a single thing right. And the fact that I had people walking away from me like this just, like, kind of confirmed what I was thinking. And this is gonna, like, maybe sound weird to you all, but one of the ways I've just, like, kind of connected with Dan's story some, like, this is where I'm gonna, like, start, like, phasing in, like, how I've gotten to know them, and, like, kind of what Dan was talking about on stage on Friday. But, as soon as I heard the song Demons, I was like, wait a second, I'm not the only person who, like, thinks there's something else in me? Because, like, for the longest time, I was convinced I was insane. Because when I was little, like, having, like, not really anyone to talk to, I would mostly end up sitting on my own, and I could almost feel like there was another person in me, like, and she started out being, like, this, like, sweet girl that I could talk to, and, like, she would be like, oh, they're all so stupid for not hanging out with you, you can talk to me. And so, like, she just, at first she seemed like a friend to me, and the thing was, she was inside me. I know that's gonna sound like I'm a completely insane individual, but then as I got older and I, like, started making assumptions based on, like, how I got treated and stuff, and, like, making all these assumptions that I'm stupid, I'm worthless, like, all things like that. She slowly began to, like, take my assumptions and be like, oh yeah, you're so right, you are stupid, you are ugly, you are worthless, you have no point in being here. And she would just, like, slowly whisper them to me, like, I could just be, like, sitting there, like, trying to focus on school, and she would just, like, whisper them to me, like, you're worthless, you're stupid, just stop, and, like, just whisper them to me. And she, like, slowly formed from being, like, this nice person that I could, like, talk to being this monster basically living inside of me. And I know she's still there. I really do. This is gonna sound even more stupid, but I literally have days. I'm, like, crying, but at the same time I'm not, because, like, there's something, like, where, like, I actually, like, cannot cry, really. I don't even know, but, I will literally have days where I can feel her presence so strongly inside of me. It feels like she's ripping the real me to shreds. Like, it'll physically because it feels like she's just like digging into me and like trying to destroy. And I feel like she just like sits over control of me. And like hearing demons for the first time, I was like, so I'm not the only one who has like a feeling of like being completely like ruled by like some darkness. Like, I thought I was so alone in that I never brought it up to anyone, because I thought they were just gonna tell me I was insane and just like shrug it off like, oh, she's just crazy. And so well, and so like another thing is, it's like I've never really understood what like was going on with me, like all the different thinking, like randomly getting so overwhelmed I couldn't handle it. Just like feeling so messed up and hopeless. It's like I never really understood exactly what was happening. And it wasn't until the beginning of my junior year that we actually like started getting like names for what was going on inside of me. 'Cause I believe the first one of over this past year, roughly a year, I've been really given like 4 major diagnoses. The first one being Asperger's syndrome, which is a mild form of autism. Like, it's more mild than high functioning autism. Like, so we don't like come off as like generally being considered autistic, but it it does screw with you, and it's like sometimes you're just like, what do I even do? Like, and people like find it weird, like when I like kind of like move around on my face, but it's like actually one of the things that feels okay for me. And I guess this will kind of explain like something, like, so people like who came up to me asking for hugs and stuff after the concert, because I know Dan like told everyone, you need to go give her a hug. It's like, the one thing about that was like, if I was awkward to anyone while giving them the hug, I sincerely apologize. It just sometimes weirds me out, like, like having contact with just like people I've never met before in my life. And so it's like, it did kind of become slightly awkward. The second one we really got was for like the past 2-ish years, like before we even got this one, I had been having so much trouble sleeping, like falling asleep, staying asleep, just like a whole mess of things. It got like so bad at like one point that um it would get like so bad at points that I could maybe only like sleep for 15 minutes in a single night. And when you do that a few days in a row, you feel like crap. Like, I'm just gonna put it like that. You feel like crap. And I would always hate that because there's just this thing about, like, not having sleep that it, like, puts you on edge. And also, like, with Asperger's, like, sometimes I'm more on edge than I would feel comfortable because I actually personally hate getting mad at people. Like, it makes me feel like a terrible individual when I'm mad at someone. But, um, so, like, I would be more on edge than usual, and, like, I might accidentally snap at someone, and it made me feel, like, completely terrible. Like, I did not mean to do that. Like, please, I didn't mean it. And, um, so finally, after a little while, we actually found out they put it down as clinical insomnia. And it's actually, like, currently, I think I'm on 5 sleeping pills a night. And that's, like, the only thing to get me to, like, through the entire night. And, jeez. Um, I'm sorry. Okay, I think I'm gonna, like, stop, like, with the 4-part thing, because these next two, like, don't come in until, like, after I kind of explain, like, how Imagine Dragons have affected my life, because, like, if I try to explain it before, it's gonna, like, sound, like, really awkward, but I promise when I get back to these, I apologize, because that's gonna be, like, the hardest part of this video to talk about. But, so, going through, like, elementary and middle school, like, being convinced I was just this worthless, stupid mess up that was just doing everything wrong. It didn't always help that throughout elementary and middle school, the only genre of music I listened to was country. Like, please do not judge me for that. That was very awkward period. Like, people would, like, try to show me music other than country, and I just went, like, turn that off, give me back my country. And the other thing that did not help about that was it tended to be the sadder songs of the genre that ended up being my favorites. And there's something different about a sad country song compared to a sad alternative song. A sad alternative song is gonna, like, I feel like it has, like, some way that, like, it just kind of, like, embraces you in a musical hug. Like, if you, like, associate with this, it's gonna be okay. The thing with a sad country song is it doesn't have that. It just makes you even more sad. And so, like, with being bullied and, like, not kind of, like, having, like, music that really understood, I had tons of nights where I would be, like, crying to sleep. And if you want to know, like, how much this messed me up, I had nights when I was even in elementary school that I began to think, who's really gonna miss me if I leave? As an elementary school kid. An elementary school kid thinking, why do I even need to still be here? be that young and thinking, I don't need to be here anymore. That screws you up. Because you're just like, it really does screw you up. Because you're just like, you think when you're that young that you should just like not be caring about anything. And you should just be like living your life. But for me, it was always like this thing of overthinking everything and always thinking I was just messed up. Like, to be that young and thinking I just shouldn't even be here. I would literally have dreams of, like, me, like, falling off a bridge or in a car crash or something, and it was terrifying. Like, seriously terrifying. Um, it ended up being, and there were just like points I was getting to that it just like felt like I was all the way down. Kind of like that thing Dan was talking about at the show where he was like, have you ever been at your lowest low and just celebrated it? I was at that lowest low, but I didn't know how to celebrate it. I thought I was just like doomed to be like that for the rest of my life. Um, it ended up being around, I actually did some thinking last night, and if I'm correct, it was actually June the 12th, 2012, was the very first time I heard an Imagine Dragons song. I had just been shopping with my mom at Walmart, and we were getting back in the car, and I was like hoping to like turn on one of my favorite country stations, like hoping they would play one of my favorite songs. And I like turn it on, and they're like playing one of the songs I like absolutely hate. And so like my mom goes and changes it, and I thought she was going to change it to another country station. But instead, she stopped it on this new channel I knew she had been listening to. I hadn't really listened to it much because she was like, oh, I found this new channel. It's really good, but it's like, and she told me it was like all alternative rock and things like that. And my stupid country diehardness was like, oh, ew, I'm not gonna listen to that station. But she stopped on that station, and at first I was complaining. I was like, don't make me listen to this. And she was like, oh, you'll be fine. We're just driving home from Walmart, which was only like a 5-minute drive. And so, like, right as we were pulling out of the parking spot, the little, like, voice, like, those, like, recorded voice things they have for radio stations, like, came on, and this station, like, had a thing where, like, each month they would kind of, feature, like, a new comer into the scene. And so for the month of June, Imagine Dragons was actually their featured artist. And so we're actually like pulling out of the spot, and it goes like, discover Alice new music, and it said, Imagine Dragons, It's Time. And my mom heard that, and she goes like, oh yeah, I've heard this song on here before, and I really think you would enjoy it. And I go like, fine, and she turns it up, and there was just something about the song that it was, I don't know if it was the stomping, if it was the clapping, if it was the mandolin. There was just something about that song that just automatically caught my eye. I mean, not my eye, my ear. Yes. Um, Caught my ear and just made me think, do not tune this song out. You need to pay attention to this. And so I listened to it for the very first time. And at first, like, the lyrics didn't, like, actually, like, hit me. But I absolutely fell in love with the melody of the song and the voices. Like, this was before I knew who any of them were or what they looked like. So, but I fell in love with it, and like, I would like let my mom play that channel when we were in the car, and I would get like super excited whenever that would come on for the rest of June. And once June was over, I had gotten enough iTunes money that I went and bought It's Time on iTunes. And at the time, I did not have many songs on my iPod, so I would like play all the songs I had. Sorry, my mom like tried to walk in. But like, so since I didn't have many songs on there, it got repeated a lot through my playlist, so I basically started listening to that song almost religiously. And slowly, like, I started, like, hearing past the melody and, like, actually paying attention to the words that were being sung, and realized they weren't just words, that they had a very powerful message to them. And something about it just hit me and was like, you need this song. Because I had, like, always felt like there was just, like, something missing, because I was just, like, sorry, I'm moving around so much. I was just, like, always down so much, and like I said, like, being that young and, like, not wanting to be here anymore. But there was something about listening to that song that just told me, hey, you need to pay attention to this, and hey, just give it a chance. And so, like, from that moment until, like, Christmas of 2012, I basically listened to It's Time religiously. I would play it so much it annoyed my parents. But so we got to, like, Christmas, and like, my family, with as small as it is, we can meet at a hotel for a family Christmas. I literally have one uncle and 3 aunts and no cousins. I have no siblings and no cousins. Which means my family tree just goes, and I am the only one. It's like, being just an only child can sometimes be a lot of pressure, because you're, like, expected to be this good child. But when you're the only child, and the only one of this generation of your family, you got a lot of pressure on you to, like, be this good kid, because there's, like, no one else like to be considered better than you. And so like you always like have your family watching you and stuff like that. And so we're having our family Christmas, and I get my card from my uncle, and in it he gave me a $10 iTunes card, which made me excited because there were a few country songs that I had recently fallen in love with and I wanted to go get downloaded. Once I downloaded all the songs I wanted, I realized I still had enough money left to buy one more song. Thing was, I couldn't think of any other country songs I wanted to buy. So I thought, well, hey, I've been listening to It's Time a lot. Why don't I go look up the artist and see what else I can find by them? So I typed Imagine Dragons into the bar and found that it had an album listed there, Night Visions, which I did not know had even come out between the time I started listening to them and this point. I didn't even know it had come out or anything. And so I clicked on it and I was like, okay, I don't have enough money left to buy the entire album, but I have enough money if I want to buy just one song off of here. So I began to glance at the track listing, and I was like, I don't know what song to get. And this is totally before I even knew it had the option that you could click on the title and it would play a sample for you, because I was very technology challenged with the iTunes store. And so I just kind of went, okay, I'm gonna choose the one with the title that just most catches my eye, and I'm gonna buy that song. It just happened to be so that the song that caught my eye was Radioactive. And given I had never heard the song before at all, this was before it started getting played on the radio a bunch. I had never heard this song, and something about the title just kind of caught my eye, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this. And this is gonna sound really weird, but so I bought the song, and so then I just pop in my earphones and I press play because I want to hear okay, I've known this one song by this band, let me get to know another song. And it's the oohs started to come in, I was like, okay, this is good. And then it got to the part where me being this very naive music person actually thought it sounded like dubstep, and I was actually crying because I thought I had bought a dubstep song, and I was so mad I spent my last bit of money on it. And at first I was like, this is really weird. But I decided, well, the first time I heard It's Time, I thought, this is slightly strange. Wow, how's this for fitting? I'm talking about my first time listening to Radioactive, and it comes on my iPod Shuffle. But so I just decided to give it another chance, and I listened to it again, and just tried to listen for the words instead of the melody. And after listening to it a couple times over and hearing the lyrics, I was like, there is something different about this group. Something really different. I feel comforted by these songs. And so, like, I was completely out of money on the iTunes store, so I had, like, no way of, like, going and buying the other songs, and like I said, I was super naive that I didn't know you could listen to clips of the songs. So I was like, oh darn, how am I gonna listen to the rest of this album now? But around January, I like started getting like requests from like family members going like, okay, what do you want for your birthday since it's coming up? And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm gonna get another iTunes card, so I'm just gonna go for the big thing, and I'm just gonna request Night Visions. And so I asked for the Night Vision CD for my birthday, and I ended up getting it. And the very first time I listened to it was my 14th birthday party. We had gone to go see a Tim Hawkins show, which, if you guys don't know Tim Hawkins, you're missing out. But, we went to go see a Tim Hawkins show, and, like, on the way there and the way back home, I had my parents put Night Visions into the, CD player, and, like, when both Radioactive and Its Time came on, like, I knew the words to those, and I was kind of, like, singing along with those ones. But, like, the rest of the ones, I had, like, never heard the words before. So I was just kind of, like, dancing to the melodies, and I was like, oh, this sounds really good. Because I was like, I've never heard, like, people make sounds like this before, because you know the big, like, stereotype of country that it all sounds the same. I'm gonna say it really does. So you don't get used to much variety in sound, but then I went and listened to this, and I was like, there's so much variety, like, I wasn't used to this, and it just, like, caught my eye. Again, I said caught my eye. Caught my ear. Ear. But, it just, like, caught my attention, and so I just, like, kept listening and listening to the CD, like, slowly starting to pay attention to the lyrics of the songs. And, like, I was, like, wanting to try to figure out the lyrics so much that, like, I would ask my parents if I could put it in the CD player, like, anywhere we were driving, to the point where it probably drove them nuts that I was wanting to listen to it so much. But I was, like, in love with these songs. And, like, even, like, I got on Pandora and I made an Imagine Dragons station just so, like, I could hear other songs. And, like, the first one I had heard that wasn't part of the regular version of Night Visions was Round and Round, and that caught my attention right away, and I was like, wow, there truly is something different about this group that I need to be paying attention to. And so it came to be about April of 2013, and we found that a music festival had just been announced to be at the Kansas Speedway, which was like 20 minutes from my house, and it was going to be this festival called CanRoxus. And one of their semi-major acts they were going to have there was going to be Imagine Dragons. And I was like, I kept asking my mom, can we please go, like, I actually want to see, like, what these guys look like, and stuff like that, and, like, see, like, their stage presence and everything. And so we logged on to the CanRoxus website, and we found just to get a pass for the one day of the festival that they were going to be there was going to be almost $100. And the Speedway isn't even a good place to, listen to music, because it bounces too much. in there. And she was like, no, there's no way we can afford to take you to Can Roxas. And I was bummed. Like, seriously bummed. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll just, like, stick to, like, listening to the album and stuff like that. But then it came to be about, like, the end of May. And actually, no, it was actually probably early June. This festival was supposed to be June 28th and 29th, with Imagine Dragons being on the 28th. We get to, like, early June, and a statement gets released from Can Roxas saying that they did not sell enough tickets to meet their minimum ticket quota for the festival. And since they did not meet their minimum ticket quota, they canceled the festival. And so I was like, oh, well, at least I can't be too bummed now. I guess now they're not even gonna come. But, so, and, like, maybe, like, a week or two before that happened, I, like, finally decided to find Imagine Dragons' Facebook page and, like, follow it. And I was like, okay, I like you guys, I'm gonna follow your Facebook page. So I'm just, like, casually scrolling through my news feed, like, middle of June, and I come across a post from Imagine Dragons, and it says, Kansas, we are so bummed that Can Roxas got canceled. But don't worry, we're gonna make up for it with our own show. And I saw that, and I immediately ran over to my mom, and I was like, can we please get tickets for this? And she went and looked, and the tickets were so much more reasonably priced than they would have for me going to Can Roxas. And she agreed, and we bought some tickets. And I was ecstatic, like, just to know I was, like, gonna actually, like, see these guys in person, like, be, like, able to experience it. And, it actually ended up being, like, the Monday before the concert on the Friday. I had to go get my wisdom teeth out. And they said I actually ended up healing relatively fast, because I could eat, like, semi-soft food by the next day. But that didn't mean that it still didn't hurt a lot. So, like, we got to the Friday of the show, and we find out that the tickets we got, we're sitting right next to one of the giant speaker towers at the theater. And at first, I was just, like, so mad. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to get a good view from here. No. And it was actually making my dad so mad. He was like, quit your complaining or we're leaving right now. And this was, like, before the first opening act even took the stage. I was like, okay, I'll stop. And so, I just go ahead and sit down and, like, we wait for the first act to take the stage. Because this show actually started at 5 p.m. because they got 4 acts that were supposed to be at Can Roxas with them and got them to open for the show. So this show started at like 5 p.m. There was Churchill, which was this like really good like band out of Colorado, but sadly I found out last year that they disbanded, and I was like bummed about that. I was like, oh, but they were so good. The next group was Family of the Year. They're good. Then
they actually had 21 pilots. Now, at the time, I had never heard of these guys, like, at all. And when they just, like, show up on the stage wearing skeleton hoodies, I'm just standing there like, what the hell am I watching? And it confused the heck out of me, and since I was, like, right next to the speaker tower, all the drumming that came with the set made my teeth start hurting like crazy. Like, it was hurting so bad it was giving me a headache. But luckily, this theater we were at, since they also do a lot of Broadway shows, had a gift shop, and inside the gift shop they sold Tylenol. And so, like, I missed, like, the last half of 21 Pilots set to, like, go and, like, get Tylenol and just be like... Then next, they had Capital Cities, which I had never heard of them before that night, too. And so, and once Capital Cities was done, they, like, dropped the big background screen for Imagine Dragons. And, like, I just saw this, like, half moon thing going on with their name across, and I was like, wow. And then, like, I saw them, like, pulling all the equipment onto stage, and I was just going, like, this is such a big setup. And, like, you gotta remember, this is their 2013 setup. Like, nothing compared to what they have now. But, so, and then, by the time they took the stage, it was dark outside. Like, this was an outside theater. And so, like, they couldn't really, like, bring down the house lights. But, it was dark outside. And so, like, they would have, like, some lights around, but those finally came down. And I just remember, like, watching these lights on stage, like, go like, da 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 da, like, to this, like, intro, and I was going like, wait a second, no one's on stage, where is this coming from? Like, this was, like, the first time I dealt with, like, beginning tracks, like, seriously, I was so naive to music before that. And, like, finally I started, like, seeing silhouettes walk out onto the stage, and, like, everyone just started cheering, and I was like... And then they actually started playing, and I was like, what even is this? Like, it seriously blew my expectations right out of the water. Like, I was expecting nothing like the concert I attended. Like, it was beyond wonderful. And so, like, I'm just standing there and dancing and, like, trying to remember the words I had learned from the album and, like, singing along with the songs I could. And when they got to On Top of the World, which happened to be, like, one of the ones I learned really quickly, I was, like, kind of, like, dancing around and singing. And the way this theater was designed, you had the stage, but then there were, like, these, like, two little outlets to the side of the stage that connected to a staircase down to the audience. So it was, like, really easy to get into the crowd from the stage. And so Dan, in what I learned to be his typical fashion, got off, like, ran to the side of the stage, went on one of the little outlets, and came down into the crowd. And, like, at first I lost sight of him, but then, like, I was watching the spotlight, and then all of a sudden I noticed he was running right past me. The route he was taking was going to come right past me because I was on the very edge of a section. And so in just like the spur of the moment, I stuck my hand out into the hall, not the hall, just like the little walkway, and I got a high five from him, and like, it's like, that actually like became so significant for me, because I was like, I just touched this guy's hand and stuff like that. And there was something about that night, just like listening to all the songs and like having just that small second of connection that, just like sealed like being a fan for me. And it was maybe about like a month or two later, I had found Dan's Facebook, because when I started out, I was kind of almost like one of those really creepy fans. I'm just gonna admit that. So, guys, if you were watching this, I apologize for like the first year or so when I was just like this really creepy fan, because that was awkward. But so like I ended up like sending Dan this really long Facebook message about like what I had been through, and like how much just getting that one simple high five meant to me. Within 20 minutes, I had a message back that said, "I see you. Love yourself and your body. You are worth it. XXDR." It just completely stunned me. The fact that, one, he actually like read this message I sent him, and two, that he actually like cared enough about what I was saying to like respond to it. And that moment just kind of like opened my eyes, and I was like, there truly is something different about this band. They are not like other bands. And so then it ended up being about October of 2013, and I had ended up, like, my school had a slam poetry contest, and so I wanted to enter, but I had never written a poem before. Like, never before in my life had I written anything. And so I'm just like in English class one day, and we had some free time, so like I just like began pinning down stuff I was thinking about, and it ended up becoming this like 3-minute long slam poem that I ended up titling "The Dragon I Imagined." And I had dedicated it to Dan. And like I had my English teacher like come over and look at it, because she knew I was a big Imagine Dragons fan, and she just like looked at that and went like, "That is absolutely lovely. If you have any way to get that to him, you need to send that to him. I'm sure he would love it." And so like I actually did a little bit of looking, and I found the email for Mac, their manager. And like I know a lot of people, like when they first email Mac, they like do this like huge like intro email, like, "This is me, this is who I am," and things like that. Me being the terribly awkward person I am, my very first email to Mac was, "Could you please send this poem to Dan? A link to the poem, Faith Moore." That was my entire email. The very first email I had ever sent to him. And I sent that about like 7 p.m. at night, and I was like, I'm probably not going to get a response tonight because he's probably like super busy. So I go to bed, and I wake up in the morning to find I have 2 emails from him. The first one saying that he thought the poem was that Mac thought the poem was wonderful, and he was like, I'm gonna send this to Dan right away, but please do not expect a response, cause he's pretty busy and stuff like that. The second email from him was time-stamped just an hour after that first one, and it said, well, forget what I said in that first one. Dan just emailed me back a response, and it said, I love this poem and I love her. And there was something about that I was just like, that like finally completely sealed for me the fact that these guys were gonna become very meaningful to me. And so, after that, I kind of like wrote a few more poems and stuff like that. And so, about like mid-December, I had found out that Imagine Dragons was going to have a show in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was actually the closest day that was going to be to me. And so, like, I had started begging my parents, going like, can we please go to this show in Tulsa? And they were going like, Tulsa's like too far away, even though it's like 5 hours away from me, and stuff like that. And I finally convinced them. I was just like, if I can have this concert be my 16th birthday present, will you let me go? And they were like, okay, you know this will be the only present you get, but okay, if this is going to be your present, you can go, because the concert ended up falling 10 days after my 16th birthday. And so, like, once I found out I was going, I had actually, like, come up with, like, a really crazy idea. I was like, I have all these poems I've written for these guys. What if I put them in a little booklet? And ever since that first email I had sent to Mac, like, we kind of, like, discussed back and forth, because I had, like, a bunch of different questions, like, either on the history of the band, or, like, what the music business is like. And so, like, we just kind of, like, got to, like, chatting normally, and he just kind of, like, became a good friend with me. And so I, like, bounced this idea off of him, and he was like, that would actually be, like, so wonderful. And he said since that Tulsa show was going to end up being a TRF fundraiser, that he was going to be there and could meet up with me to grab the booklet to take it to them. And I was so excited, so I got all the supplies I needed, because I ended up making a scrapbook, and I actually had 3 of my closest friends, Jordan, who she is amazing, like, seriously, and we both live here in Olathe, Samantha, and Jess, and, like, we all found out we were gonna go to the same concert in Tulsa, and so, like, I collected things from them, and we each all had 2 pages of the scrapbook that we could put our things on. And so I just kind of like made this book, and so we finally get to Tulsa, and I'm like standing at the concert, like, with my scrapbook. And after Nico Vega had done their set, which that was my very first time seeing Nico Vega, and oh my gosh, I was in love, like, right away. I had, like, given Mac my phone number before I went into the concert because I knew there was gonna be, like, so many people trying to use the arena Wi-Fi that I was not gonna be able to send an email to him to ask where he was. So I just sent him my number and I was like, if you need to contact me, this is my number, because I'm not gonna be able to use this Wi-Fi. And so I'm standing up in the hallway, like, going like, okay, I'm just gonna wait here and, like, see if he, like, messages me anything. And my friend Jordan actually, like, came to meet up with me, cause she had, like, made some, like, drawings for them, and she was like, can I come along with you? And I was like, sure. And so, like, I finally end up getting a text from, like, this number I don't even know, and it just said, like, hey, this is Matt. And he told me, hey, change of plans. Instead of me meeting you in the hall, can you come down to the back left corner of the floor and meet me there? And so we ended up walking down there, and, like, once we were, like, halfway across the floor, it, like, got completely pitch black for the Naked and Famous' set. But we made it over there. And, like, there was kind of, like, this guard standing by the curtain. He was just kind of, like, looking at us like, what do you want? And, so, we end up, like, seeing the curtain move, and I see, like, this tall person, like, walk out, like, I couldn't make out a face. But then they, like, walked over to us, and I just heard, is that a face I see? And it was Mac, and he, like, came and gave me a hug. And then he, like, walked us, like, into this back hall, and I thought we were just going in there because it was lit in there, and I thought, okay, it's going to be much easier to see each other if we're in there. But then he really throws me for a loop, and he keeps walking. And granted, behind these curtains, it took you into the backstage tunnels. Which, wow, I never knew how complex those tunnels were until that moment. And so, like, I just keep following him, and he, like, keeps leading us down the tunnels, and I'm, like, so confused to what's happening. Until, like, we pull up to a room that says interview room on it. And he, like, lightly knocks on the door, and it gets opened up a bit, and he just turns to us and says, wait here for a second. And he's in there for, like, maybe a minute or so. Comes back out, and he's like, okay, we're all good in there. Follow me. And he walks us to the back of this line that's waiting in the hallway. And both me and Jordan got very suspicious as soon as we saw my friend Samantha in the line, because we knew she had won meet and greet passes from a radio station. And she was in that line that Mac was taking us to the back of. And we were both like, what is happening? And, like, once he gets us to the back of the line, he's like, this is where I need to leave you guys, because I need to go check on our tech team. And, like, I had written a letter for him, so I gave it to him. But as he was about to walk away, I was like, wait a second, don't you need the scrapbook? You said you were going to take it to them. And he just, like, looks at me and goes like, oh, there's someone in there who will help you get it to them. And I was like, okay. But I just, like, trusted him, and I was like, it's like this line, like, started slowly moving towards this set of double doors, and we get in there for me to just see one head above everyone else's, and I realized it was Dan Reynolds. And I was like, what even is happening right now? And so, like, I'm just, like, holding onto the scrapbook, and we finally walk up to them, and I'm just like holding this scrapbook in my hands, and I walk up to Dan, and he just goes like, "You're Faith, right?" I had never talked to him in person. The only 2 times I had ever had contact with him before then was the message I sent and the email that I got back from the poem. Those were the only 2 times I'd ever talked to him. But apparently I had like talked with Mac enough that like he actually like started bringing me up or something like that. And so it's like to actually like walk in this room and have like this person that you look up to for their strength and stuff, to like look at them and have them like actually recognize you by name and face just like blew me away. And then I went to the concert and went into the concert, and again it just blew my expectations out of the water, and it was so much more than I could have asked for. And so like after that, like I would still talk with Mac a lot, and like we'd like gradually talk about different things, and like slowly I began revealing pieces of my story to him, and like so he got to know me pretty good. And um around December of 2014, I just felt myself sliding down and sliding down fast. I didn't even know what was happening, cuz I had like found this band that meant so much to me, like more than words could say. But that hopelessness I had inside of me just returned and returned so strong. It was pulling me down, and I was going down fast. And it was a terrible feeling. So, we get to about mid-January of this year, and like for like the past 3 weeks I've barely slept. Like ate maybe only a little bit, and like was taking horrible care of myself. And something inside of me just snapped. This is gonna be like the hardest part to talk about for me, because something inside of me just snapped. I don't even know what it was. And I came home from youth group one night. I believe it was exactly January the 15th. I came home from youth group, and I was taking my nighttime medications, and I saw my big bottle of one of my medications sitting there. And I like poured a bunch out of the bottle, and I almost took the entire handful of the pills. Because I was just so done with everything. I didn't care anymore, and I was like, I'm just gonna give up. This is gonna be it. Probably no one's gonna end up caring, like, at all. Like, no one's gonna miss me, so I'm just gonna do this. And, um, I forget exactly what it was, but something stopped me from doing that. But since I did almost attempt suicide, I ended up in a hospital for the next 5 days. Which, to be honest, that was hell. You were not allowed to have music with you whatsoever. So, um, I just had like, so you just had to like sleep on these like rock hard mattresses in pitch blackness and only have the air conditioner to listen to. It was like torture to me. And then I was surrounded by so many kids who, and it's back up here, who literally had just like given up any last strand of hope. And it's like, I was literally surrounded by people who just didn't give a damn anymore. Like, they were talking about, like, what can I do to, like, extend my stay here so I don't have to go home. And so, it's like, to be surrounded with that much hopelessness, it kind of makes you think. Just like, wow. And so, I'd, like, been hearing about this night that Imagine Dragons had been planning, and like a few people that I knew had like received invitations to it, and I was like all so happy for them. I was just kind of like, that's cool. And so while I was in there, like my mom like emailed a bunch of people so they could like send me letters back, and then she would like print them off and bring them to me. Well, she knew like how much me and Mac had gotten to know each other. And so she sent Mac an email about it. And he emailed back saying, if she is out by this Wednesday or Thursday, I think we can do something for her. And I actually ended up getting out that Wednesday. And like, I sent an email, and I was going like, because also in his email he said like, tell her that we're all thinking of her, and it's like, I was just like talking like to know like you guys were thinking of me, and like the very first song I had heard since I was in there, my therapist like actually like played Demons for me, and I was like completely in tears, like having that be the first song I listened to in 5 days. And um so like I emailed them back going like, it meant so much to know you guys were like thinking about me, and like I sang all these songs to myself like to keep myself sane. And I got an email back, and it just said, it's no problem, come hang out with us. And at first I didn't notice the email had like the little paperclip sign that something was attached to it, and I was completely lost. I was like, come hang out with us? What are you guys talking about? It wasn't until 2 hours later that I checked my email inbox again, and I finally noticed there was the little paperclip sign next to that email. And so I reopened it, and I completely scrolled down to the bottom of it, and it was an invitation to Dragon's Take Vegas. I got out on a Wednesday of that week. Saturday morning, I was on a plane to Vegas. And that Saturday night, I spent a night with these people that literally changed my life. Like, to be completely honest, I think if I had never come across Imagine Dragons, that I definitely would not still be here. And like, that night itself was spectacular. And like, as I was leaving after we took our picture together,
I'd given Dan a hug, and he, like, whispered down to me, and he was like, stay strong and stick around for me. And I was like, okay. And, like, he hugged me one last time and said, we'll see you soon. Which really confused the heck out of me, because I was like, how are you guys gonna see me soon? I literally live in this town in Kansas that no one really even knows about. But I ended up finding out they were gonna come to St. Louis, which was gonna be the closest show to me, even though it was 4 hours away. And I know it feels like I'm leaving holes here and there, but just know that, like, gradually since I heard it's time, I, like, gradually made my way into the fandom, and I just became, like, full-on infatuated with these guys. And actually in, like, November of 2013, I came home from assisting with preschoolers at church one night to find an email in my inbox that says, you have a new follower on Twitter, Imagine Dragons. I was completely speechless. I was like, I've only tweeted them a few times before, like, how in the world did they, like, find my account and follow it? And, like, everything just became so meaningful to me, and, like, everyone around me just thought I was, like, this, like, stupid, obsessive fangirl and stuff like that, but I was not in love with them just because they were a band, or just because I loved their music. I loved the music for the musical side of it, and for, like, how much the lyrics I could find connections to, and I loved them just for the humans that they are, and their personalities. I didn't fall in love with them because they're a band. I fell in love with them because they became some of the best friends I could ever ask for. And to, like, not have many friends, and then to, like, actually be able to say, I know these people, it finally, like, felt that part that just felt like I was never there. And to be completely honest, I had no clue a Friday night was actually going to end up happening. It was like I had somehow made it up to the 4th row of people on that GA floor. And I was standing there, like, belting out every word, because I have taken these songs completely to heart, and I love every single one of them. It is actually the hardest question when people try to ask me, what is your favorite Imagine Dragons song? I literally cannot choose, because all of them each of them means something different to me. So I can never, like, really truly choose a favorite. So it's just kind of like there. But so I was just, like, standing there singing every single word. And they got to Friction. And the bridge in Friction. Like, Dan was just, like, kind of looking out at the crowd. And I thought it was gonna be like almost like hopeless, but so I started like jumping up and like waving my hand, like trying to see if I could get him to see me, because the purple hair, I was gonna hope that like if he saw me, like he would know it was me, and um, so I jumped around and waved. And he finally, like, saw me, and I saw him go like that. Like, I acknowledge you're there, and he, like, kind of, like, pointed at me and kept eye contact with me for the rest of the bridge. And before they went back into it, he just went, like... and, like, I was gonna be completely content if that was the only thing that happened that night. Because I was just gonna be like, he knows I'm here. That's all I really need. And... um... then he then he did that thing, like bringing me up on stage, like he did that thing. And so like basically the thing I forgot to bring up again was like we found out after I gotten out of the hospital, like before Dragons Take Vegas, the other two major ones I got were moderate depressive disorder and an anxiety disorder. And so like basically my mind is just like screwed up darkness. But as you can see, like I try to keep happy, because it's like I know that if like I don't like try to keep myself happy, I know I'm gonna be miserable. So like I just do my best to stay happy. Like I hate getting mad at people. I always do my best to like see like I know that everyone, no matter who they are, they do have goodness in them. And I make it my goal to find that when I'm talking to people. Because it's not until you truly see someone that you're going to know who they are. Like, you might know their name, you might know their face, but until you know their life, you really don't know them at all. And so, like, when Dan, like, pulled me up there and he goes, like, this is one of our best fans, I was almost tempted to say, like, I completely beg to differ, because I have gotten to know so many amazing people through this fandom. And there's so many of them that I think deserve that title of best fan. Like, I'm just kind of like this girl from Kansas who just happened to fall in love with these guys by chance. But there's like so many people that are like so much more creative and like so much more amazing than me. And I love and respect the entire fandom so much, and I've like come to know them basically as a family. And I so think they deserve that title way more than I ever could. And then when he was going like, she's one of the strongest people I know, it was like, kind of like felt weird being told that, because it was just like, okay. And so, after we took the picture together, we had that one last big long hug, and as we were standing there, I had like whispered into Dan's ear and I was like, I love you so much, Dan, like you don't even know. And since he had the microphone away from his mouth, he was just able to whisper just back to me, and he was like, oh, trust me, I know, we all love you so much too, so please stay strong. Because it's like, to be honest, even though after the hospital, I still had points where I was just ready to give up. Like, seriously. And I'm working on getting over it, but I have had problems with self-harming and lots of other, like, just shit in my life. And to be completely honest, I feel like not deserving, like, whatsoever of what happened on Friday night. Like, and it's like, for all these people, like, to be now calling me, like, oh, you're so popular, you're so famous, and it's like, I'm just like, it feels weird to take on that as, like, a title, because it's like, I don't want to, like, make it seem like I'm above other people, because I'm not. I'm really just this is a girl who, like, happened to fall in love with Imagine Dragons, and was lucky enough to actually get to know them and have them get to know me. But there are so many other people in this fandom I know that I wish that the band could get to know as well as they have gotten to know me. Because there are so many amazing stories throughout this fandom. Like, we've literally been through so many different things in life, yet we all come together through the love for this one band. And we've basically become family together. And it's like any family, we have our differences. We have times when we fight and things like that, but I could, like, never ask for a better group of friends. And just it feels like just so strange, like, being told, like, I'm famous, because it's like, I'm really just me, and I just happen to just be super lucky. And, like, this band has, like, seriously brought me out of my shell, like, so much. Throughout elementary and middle school, like, you could not get me to do anything in public. Like, I was terrified to do so, but, like, now I've started, like, making singing videos that I occasionally post here, or twice I've even sung at my church camp talent show. I'll, like, actually, like, try and go to talk to people and things like that, like, that I wouldn't have tried a few years ago. And, wow. And whenever it does end up happening and Dan comes out here to interview me for the Polaroid stories, I hope, like, I'll get this point across, like, in less than 2 hours. Like, I'm sorry this video has become so long, but really, all I have left to say is thank you, Imagine Dragons. Thank you for just being this band that instantly caught my eye, that these are people you need to pay attention to. Thank you for, like, teaching me that no matter what crap life throws at you, that you're always gonna find people to help you through it. And thank you for teaching me, like, how to actually, like, deal with darkness and, like, showing me that I'm not the only one. That there are so many other people who understand this. And thank you for just accepting me, and because, wow, like, it means a ton. I could never put enough words together to thank Imagine Dragons for all they've done. For the things they know they've done for me, and for the things they never knew they've done for me. They've done a lot. And just like, I love you, Imagine Dragons. Thank you. I guess that's really all I do have to say. Like, I'm sorry this video became so long, but I just had so many things I just needed to say about this. So hey, if you made it through this much of the video, congrats, and I love you for, like, not giving up on me just, like, random babbling. But I promise that, like, once our Polaroid Stories things happen, that will probably, like, get my story into a shorter video, so you don't have to watch 2 hours of me talking. But so yeah, like, I hope this, like, has, like, shown, like, me, and I just hope that, like, me talking about this shows something to someone somewhere. I don't know what that thing is, I don't know who that person will be, I don't know where they'll be, but I just hope this, like, shows something to that one person. Because I just want to say that no matter how cruddy life seems, there's always going to be a reason to keep holding on. For me, I found that reason to be Imagine Dragons. But yeah, so. And my laptop's almost dead, so I'm probably gonna have to, like, sign this off here, so. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm sorry I babbled on for almost 2 hours. But thank you for watching this, and I hope that just shows a little bit more of who I am. Bye.